Hi there, and welcome to video blog number 4 on how to make your space. So what we're going to be talking about tonight is a little bit about the idea of experimentation and playing a little bit and drafting some of your ideas and getting a blueprint for those things. So when I say experiment, I mean go throughout your area and take some of the technology that you have and begin to experiment with it. So take those pieces of technology and see some of the things that students might want to use. Try and think about, okay, what are some of the applications that I want to use this for? What are some of the things that can be applied to this? What are some of the curriculums that can be applied to this in the different content areas? And then begin to design some things. Start to think about ways that you could show off the technology to people. What I did was I set up the 3D printer that we had, and I began to make some things on it, just simple sample prints that you can begin to show people and get people interested in what you're doing, especially those who are going to be able to assist you, and allow them to get vested in the design that you're trying to put together. So putting together a 3D printer really kind of helped people to kind of get a little fired up about the idea, because they were able to look and see, oh, this is really happening. We got 3D printer running, and look at how, and it worked great. It made these cool links, and it made a stretchy bracelet, and it was just, one of the example prints that it did, and it was cool, and it got kids excited about what was about to happen in the area, in the makerspace. So experiment, try some different things out. We set up our Nooks, we set up our Kindle Fires to see how they were working, and everything seemed to work great. And this kind of ties into yesterday about setting up your technology and make sure everything's working. But now that you know it's working, begin to play with it a little bit. So I messed around with some of the stop motion stuff just to see how that was working. And the stop motion stuff is just incredible. It's one of those things that I think kids are really going to get behind. And once they see how well it works and how much fun it is, they can really get behind it a little bit, especially your administration, showing them that there are things that can happen with the technology that you have really helps a lot. So the last part of the thing I want to talk about, so you got your experiment and play. The other thing is this idea of beginning to map out your design and begin to just, number one, we talked already about inventory, but now begin to actually map out the current landscape that you have. And what I did with that was I made a Google Draw. So I went through and I looked at the entire room, and I made a little drawing of each room, of where all the tables were, where all the bookshelves were, and I began to think of, okay, how can I rearrange this into a makerspace to where we begin to foster that creative, innovative design mindset. And it quickly began to kind of come together, and people began to see some things like, okay, well, maybe we can take the bookshelves and shift them 45 degrees to increase the amount of movement between different bookshelves, and then we could take our reference section and put it up against the wall, because reference sections are important, but when you can use that space there to actually have some collaborative interactions, you can take your reference sections, put them against the wall. That way they're still accessible, but you can also use them to put up artwork on top of. You can use them to kind of spread your space out a little bit. So I just went through and I put together just a quick Google drawing of everything. I think maybe it took like an hour or two, but it really helps to just blueprint your ideas. And what I would do is I would make each individual thing its own drawing. So don't group them all together, because what you want to do is you're going to take this Google drawing and you're going to shift it. And that's going to be a video coming up here in a few days about how to take your individual items and begin to move them around your Google drawing, so that way you can begin to make your space into what you want it to be. So make sure that each item is individually grouped on its own, so that way you can rotate it, you can shift it, and you can begin to see how things are going to look in your new space. And then I would label the different areas, and we'll talk about this later when you actually begin to make your space into what you want it to be, labeling each area. So we're going to have, and I can't wait to talk to you about it, kind of a very design-based model, a design thinking-based model, where the idea of prototyping and coming up with ideas and ideation is going to be a huge fundamental part of what we're going to do. And so we have to begin to think, okay, where do we want all these different cycles to be? We really want to make it a movement as you go through the thought process. As the kids move around the room, they go into these different design thinking mindsets. So go ahead, put together your ideas on that, begin to kind of think about that. And this is not an easy task. I know sometimes the bigger the areas, the harder it is to put everything out. Don't put things to scale. It's not that important. Just get a rough idea of each item in the room and be able to maneuver it, manipulate it in whatever way you want. So that way you can make your space as you see fit. So there's my 5 minutes. I hope you learned something, and I'll look forward to seeing you for our 5th video tomorrow. Thank you.